Welcome to Living Hope, a weekly journey designed to provide you hope, inspiration, and education for anyone living with pancreatic cancer. Sharing the real-life stories of those affected by this disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And today, well, we're going to take you back to the origin of this show with an amazing tale, maybe one of the more amazing ones we're going to tell in this journey here. Well, I'll let her tell it in her own words. Welcome, Roberta Luna, to the show. How are you?
I am great, thank you. How are you?
I am good, and that must be an odd question that we just say it as so matter-of-factly, how are you? But you are now one of the rarefied few, those who have lived with pancreatic cancer for not just a while, but for a long while, for 19 plus years, right?
19 years, April 1st. I was diagnosed in 2002.
So is that a strange question to you when people say, how am I? I've had pancreatic cancer for 19 years. How do you think I am?
Well, luckily now, not so much. I almost forget sometimes that I do have pancreatic cancer. But in the early days, it was very difficult because it's kind of a moment by moment question.
Yes.
One moment you can feel great, and the next you hit, the bottom. So it varies from moment to moment, really.
Well, for those of you tuning in for the first time, either watching us live on Facebook, thanks for joining us to this new group we've created to have these kinds of conversations. Not just this one, but more. We'll create more content for the site. So for those of you interested in the subject matter or going through this right now, or you know somebody that's going through this and they're wondering, how do I handle it? What do I do? They're frightened, they're scared, they're confused. We hope to make this a living hope, a show that can give you some hope how to live with this and to give you examples of people who have lived with this. So before we do, I'm going to do this for a bunch of these shows. Let's go through some of these stats just to get them out of the way. This is ones you gave me for the last show. Correct me if any of these are wrong. Pancreatic cancer is the third leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the U.S. That surprises me.
Yeah, it does. But yes, it is. It's moved up there, and I know we're expected to reach the second in the next couple of years.
Really?
So, yes.
What would be 1 and 2? I assume lung cancer, which is somewhat preventable, not for everybody, but again, it's things we do. We smoke, and therefore we get lung cancer.
Right.
I don't know what number 1 and 2 are. I'm guessing. What?
Well, I think it's still breast cancer as well, but
Right.
they, have much better survival rates, and other cancers were up there with us.
And they're discovering it sooner, and they're treating it better, and the survival rates have gone up.
Because it's easier to diagnose for breast cancer.
We're going to talk about that today here, because I think that's one of the concerns here. So pancreatic cancer, this, I'm going to say in a certain sense, silent killer. You don't even know you have it until it's probably too late, right?
For most people, they don't get diagnosed until it is too late, till it's stage 4, and it's metastasized, which means spreads to other organs.
It's the toughest cancer, I think, to detect, because your pancreas, remind us where our pancreas is. We're going to do this numerous times on numerous shows until everybody gets it into their brain here. The pancreas is somewhere between your stomach and your back and your spine?
It lays closer to your back than it does in the front. That's why it's hard when a doctor goes to actually, examine you. He's not normally going to feel it, but it lays more towards the back. So a lot of people present with
So
back
I can't
problems.
feel a lump has developed or any of the other things?
Not normally, unless, like, my mom got very thin, so he was able to feel it that way. But normally you're going to have like back issues, or they're going to think it could be related to the kidney because of where it's located.
And the only indications that you might have it are what? The seemingly innocuous, something changed, but it doesn't seem that bad. I got back pain.
Yeah, and a lot of people, because if they're runners or very active, they think they pulled a muscle, so
Yeah.
they may not really put much credence to it.
Right.
It can be any other digestive issues as well, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, vomiting.
And you said
pain.
jaundice for some reason. I changed in my skin color.
Yeah, jaundice is the yellowing of the skin or the eyes. Normally that happens when the duct is blocked.
And what does the pancreas do? We're going to hit this numerous times because I don't even know what my pancreas is, much less that I have one.
It helps digest your food. It's got the enzymes that breaks down the food, and also it's what monitors your insulin.
Your insulin, yeah, I didn't know that's a critical ingredient. That's what diabetics are so lack of there, or have too much or too little insulin. I guess I forget what diabetes is.
Yes.
Is it too much or too little?
I think it can be a little bit either. I
Either
think
one,
there's
yeah.
different types of diabetes. I'm not that into the diabetic.
So
part.
here's this seemingly hidden organ that few of it, with a fancy name that few of us even know we have or think about. We know we have breasts. We know we have lungs. We know we have stomachs. Many of those are more obvious that something has happened, more easily identified. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can sense it quicker.
Right.
But this hidden organ, if it develops cancer, it also, is that why perhaps it has the world's, according to what the statistics I looked up, it's one of the toughest ones to beat. It's got a 5-year survival rate of just 10%.
Exactly, and for the longest time we were in the single digits. That 10% has only increased recently. So, for
It's up to 10%.
Yeah,
That's
so-
lucky us. Yeah, right.
yeah, of course we want it more, but at least it's
Yeah.
it's something. 10% is better than when my dad was diagnosed. It was 3. When I was diagnosed, it was 4%. So
Wow. Well, we're going to talk about all that too here, but let's just finish the stats. So in 2021, where we're taping this show, for those listening in the future, an estimated 60,000 Americans will be diagnosed. That's 166 people diagnosed a day, and approximately 48,000 of them will die.
yeah, sadly.
That's not, though, the good news is 60,000 out of 40 million. That's relatively small. This isn't on epidemic proportions. This isn't 10% of the population or something.
No, it's small, but still it's very important because you're looking at 60,000 that are going to be diagnosed, but only 40,000 of those people unfortunately are going to die, and that's not the statistics we want to see.
So I'm wondering if that isn't part of the problem here. One, you have a disease that, as deadly as it is, affects a relatively smaller group of population than breast cancer, or other
Right.
sorts of cancer. So maybe it's not as studied, it's not as focused, there isn't as much money thrown at it. Secondly, it's dealing with an organ most of us probably aren't even aware we have. If we are, we certainly don't know how to check it, monitor it, or whatever. So by the time we recognize it or the doctor figures it out, it's metastasized. It's gone too far. Are there other treatments if we had, like breast cancer, through breast cancer awareness, if we had pancreatic cancer awareness and we became more aware and got to it quicker, would the survival rate go up, or is it just when you got it, you got it?
I think early diagnosis is very important. That's one reason why I would say I'm still here. Unfortunately, because, like you say, we don't really know enough about, or we don't personally know enough about our pancreas. We don't think about it unless we're getting a pain that we're not familiar with or something else is going on. And it's just the awareness we're creating is through different events that we do, shows like this, just try to get the word out there so people can stop to look. When you're having all these symptoms and they can't find anything suggest that they look at the pancreas. They may not want to, but let's look at that first.
Or they may dismiss it. I'm the doctor here. I know. We got a million other things to go through. Let's not jump to that one here.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way they look at it because so few people really are diagnosed when you look at the big picture.
Okay, so let's get to the big picture of your life here, because you have what inspired this show, really, and my suggestion to even have this discussion here. Here we've got a very deadly disease. Doesn't affect a ton of people, but those that do, just a 10% survival rate. It's hard to find. It's hard to detect. Most people aren't aware of it, aren't thinking about it, and so people are needlessly dying from this disease. You didn't. You didn't die. You weren't part of that 4%. Any idea why? How? Are you just lucky? Did you do something different?
Well, I think, like I said before, early diagnosis is very important. After losing my dad in a very short time, his brother came to me and said, that's what your grandmother died from, was pancreatic cancer. And it got me to thinking, well, okay, that's 2 family members. So when we went back home, my parents lived in New Mexico. When we came back to California, I contacted my doctor and said, I lost my dad to pancreatic cancer and found out his mom also died from that. What do I need to look for, or what, are the chances that I might have something as well?
Right. Become active in your own health. Let me think ahead rather than just react to or cover it up and ignore.
Well, I'm a pretty curious person too, so I just wanted to know if there's something I needed to watch for, because my dad never complained. I never saw my dad sick. I never saw him take an aspirin. He never missed a day of work, so I didn't know what to look for. And my doctor basically said, "Don't worry about it, hun. You're too young." I was only in my 40s, and it's not hereditary. Now we know that there is a slight 10 to 12% chance that it could be hereditary, but at that time they weren't looking at that at all.
They didn't think that was worth it. Okay.
No.
Is there a lot of study into this, or is it, I won't say an orphan disease, because it's not one of those where there's so few people, there are no drugs testing or nobody thinking, researching it. But it can't be on the same scale as, I don't know, pick some other big cancer, heart disease or something.
Not large scale, but there is a lot of research going on. There's a lot of nonprofit foundations that are doing great jobs, like PanCan, or Pancreatic Cancer Action Network.
Yes, we're going to plug that one several times every week here. All right, well, so I'm going to sit back and do it. Doesn't come easy for me. I'm going to listen as you tell your story. Tell us, take whatever time you need, and tell us how you came. You already said, found out your dad died of it and his mother died of it, so you thought, I better put this on my radar, despite what the doctor says it might be hereditary. And how did it manifest itself to you? How did you find it? How did you detect it early?
Well, after losing my dad in 1998, his younger brother in 2001, wow, it's a long time ago, 2001 became ill. And actually he and I became ill around the same time. But we both thought it was kind of the flu. And then with my situation, my doctor ruled out, or thought first, it could be pregnancy, but I had been pregnant. I didn't have diarrhea during the pregnancy.
Yeah,
so
and you're in your 40s too,
Yeah,
so that
so,
seems less likely.
wasn't
Not
really-
impossible, but
wasn't too sure, that was the way to go. And he thought, well, maybe, it's your gallbladder. I had to remind him that he removed my gallbladder some years earlier.
Good doctor that he was.
Yeah, so that was a little, concerning. And then my uncle actually called me up and said, hey, Squirt, I just went back to the doctors.
Hey,
And
Squirt.
I was the shortest of the family, so I have obvious nicknames. But he said, I just want to tell you that the doctor told me I have pancreatic cancer and to go home and put my house in order because no one survives.
Wow. What? All right, walk me through that. Everybody's wondering, how do you handle that? That was from him. That wasn't for you. That's a pretty stark, blunt conversation out of the middle of nowhere. Hey, Squirt, I'm dying.
Yeah, and that was just my uncle. He was just very straightforward. But was, very concerned. Said they've, told me to go home, put my house in order because nobody survives pancreatic cancer. And I asked him, I said, well, should we seek another opinion? And he's like, no, I'm pretty sure that it's advanced enough that there's really not much to do.
Wow.
And sadly, within 2 weeks, he was gone.
Within 2 weeks?
Yeah. It was very quick. And again, I asked him because I said, well, how are you feeling? He says, well, I just felt fluish. I didn't really, he had some diarrhea and couldn't keep food down. But he wasn't thinking anything more serious. And he didn't even stop to think, even though he knew that he'd lost his mother and brother to pancreatic cancer, that was not even a thought for him.
I'm sure he's a big, tough guy. We all are. How did he just accept it that easily and it just happened that quickly? I mean, it's hard. I'm wrapping my head around all the stages of grief. Why? No, can't be. Denial, and then anger, and then finally acceptance. But there isn't a lot of time in 2 weeks to do all that.
Yeah. I think he did accept it fairly quickly because he saw what my dad went through. My dad was about 6 feet tall and weighed 175 pounds in his good days. And he got all the way down to 70 pounds before he died. And my uncle saw that and I think it just dawned on him that, watching his brother go to that and his mom before that, I think he just pretty much gave up that was it. And doctors told him no one survives. And again, like we've talked about at that time, we pretty much put stock. We thought,
Doctor was God. Yeah, whatever he said, that was it. Whether I like it or not. If they want me to stand on 1 foot for a week, I will, because that's what the doctor told me.
Yeah, but it was difficult. And then after losing him, I went back to my doctor and said, I just lost my third family member to pancreatic cancer. I'm really now concerned because of the symptoms that I've had. And again, was told I was too young and it wasn't hereditary. And I think the biggest mistake the doctor did, which is probably the best thing for me, is he said, let's just wait and see what happens. I'm not the wait and see type.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to wait and see. I'd seen what my dad went through. I saw what my uncle went through.
No time to wait and see. Yeah.
No, and I vaguely remembered. I was only 9, I believe, or 8 or 9 when my grandmother passed away. But I remember what she went through, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to put my family through that. So I just took my checkbook out, wrote a blank check, signed it, and said, let's get started. Let's do something. I really need to know so what I can do.
And what did you do?
Well, it was, after.
Doctor says, wait and see. You're now going to be, I'm going to be proactive. You're part of my generation. We're not going to sit and wait anymore here. We want to take action. We want to do something here. You had the means, the mind, the capability to do so. What did you do?
Yeah. Well, they started some tests, though. They were still thinking, because I also had some kidney issues, that it was probably more my kidney than anything else. But I knew it wasn't. It felt different. I've had kidney issues, and
It's your body. You know what's going on. Yeah.
Exactly. Just the feeling was totally different. So I said, no, let's get started. So they did a bunch of tests. They start with blood, ultrasounds, EUS, which is a tube that goes from your throat down into
And
your
did you,
area.
I hate to be blunt, but did you have to pay for this yourself? Or because the doctor said wait and see, and you said, I want to go forward, does that mean you now fund this, or does the insurance company deny it because he didn't require it?
Actually, well, like I said, I did give him the blank check just to get started, but he was really great. He did code it in a way so that the insurance did help us out with the cost.
Right.
And then when it, came down to getting the actual diagnosis, then it was, because it was necessary, so it was easier. But, for a lot of people who don't either have insurance or don't have that great doctor that knows how to code things, it's very expensive. And none of the tests
Wow.
that they do for pancreatic cancer, every test is invasive. It's not just like going to get a blood test or going to get, just feel around on the body and see what you feel.
Do they actually, how far you want to go in this? Do they probe it somehow, or do they go in and open it up and look in there, or what do
Well,
they?
the first thing they did is it's a EUS, where they take the tube and it goes down your throat and it goes into the pancreas area, and they take a biopsy that way.
Okay.
And then I had a needle biopsy, which is what they just inject the needle into. They do an ultrasound to see where the best place is, and they put the needle there, and they draw out some fluid from that and biopsy it that way. And
But you just can't run a test of a scan of your blood, a blood scan, a blood screen, and see, oh, there's the wrong enzyme or something. I don't know what it is, but whatever, there's something there that's the indicator.
no, right now we have no blood work like you do for, prostate cancer is very great right now. They have the PSA where you go in.
Yes, right. That's what I
and
was
have
getting to. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. They measure your whatever PSA stands for. They measure that. And
Yeah, and they, when we first, or at least when I first was diagnosed, they had very low survival rate as well. But when they've developed that blood test, their survival rate is like 98% now.
yes,
So,
exactly. And I go through that every year myself here, and it's now a figure that as a man of a certain age, you monitor what your PSA level is, just like women learn to self-examine all the time and not ignore a lump, a bump, something here.
Right.
These are things, signs we look for. But from the moment there isn't anything. All right, so you did this, and how long did it take for them to figure out, you're right, you got pancreatic cancer?
It took a couple of months. And then when the doctor comes in, you sort of know already, because they're not looking at you. And if it's good news,
yeah.
they're going to look at you if it's good news. And
Yeah, they don't look at you.
no, it was the same reaction like when they came and told us about my dad. They would look at the floor, and my doctor sat down, grabbed my hand, and said, I'm sorry to tell you, it is pancreatic cancer, and we'll do what we can. I suggest we start, chemo right away. But you already know no one survives because you've already lost 3 family members.
Yikes.
So it was
Yikes.
but you just.
I can't imagine this ever gets easier to talk about. And yet I know this is your passion and purpose. And you talk about it a million times to a million people in a million ways to get the word out. But I got to imagine this is, every time you tell this story, it can't be easy.
No, it is. It's difficult because it brings back that day, and sometimes I'll try not to get too teary here.
Yeah.
Sometimes and what really helped me get through that day, ironically, is after the doctor tells you that, everything else just sounds like they're saying blah, blah, blah. You don't understand,
right.
It's like the Charlie Brown commercial or cartoon. You don't really hear anything. So when I went back to my car and I turned on the radio, Bob Marley was singing, "Don't worry about a thing, every little thing's going to be all right." And I know
Every little thing's going to be all right. Yeah.
I know he wasn't singing to me, but he was.
Yeah.
He was singing to me. It was just the timing was perfect. And from that moment on, I just thought, you know what? Everything is going to be all right. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a journey. But I'm a little stubborn and bullheaded, my dad always said. So I wasn't going to just lay around and do nothing.
You weren't going to roll over.
No, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go kicking. And I wanted to, just do whatever I could do and just get started. And
Dylan Thomas's famous poem that I always misquote, don't go gently into the night, rage against the dying light.
Yes.
All right, so you start raging, you start fighting. The raging bull comes out of the corner here, and the boxer's in the corner. You made it. When did you know? When did you feel like, hey, I'm not going to die in 6 months or 6 weeks or 2 weeks?
Probably, obviously, after the first year,
Yeah.
but that first year was really, really tough. And I remember, because at that time, the 5-year survival rate was so small that when
Right.
that 5 years was creeping up, I thought, okay, if I just lay here
Still
in bed.
10% according to the statistics that I had here. Even today, 5-year survival rate's just 10%.
It is. But when I was first diagnosed, like I said, it was only 4% at
4%,
that time. And
so first year was kind of a milestone, and then, but hang in there, we got to see if we got 5 years. Now you passed 5 years. Did they start to, does it go into remission? What happens? Is it still there? It's not cured? It's not a miracle. It doesn't disappear, does it?
No, mine is still there, and it's been inoperable because of the location. There's veins and arteries that run through your pancreas.
Oh.
Mine chose to be entwined with that, so not making
So
anything.
they can't go in and dig it out?
No,
Yeah.
it's been very difficult. They check every so often because new procedures have, been developed since then to see if I'm at that point. And I have been on chemo for most of that time. My last chemo was actually in December in 2018. So this is the longest I've ever been off chemo, and the tumor is being dormant. But by no means is it in remission or gone. It's still there.
Hallelujah. So, what do you say to people who have that talk like you did that day when the doctor walks in and tells them the facts of life? You have pancreatic cancer. Survival rate's very low. Very little we know about it and what we can do. What would you tell them to do next?
Fight like hell. I mean, I do compare this to like boxing. Like when
I'm saying Raging Bull, the movie Raging Bull. Yeah, it's kind
when I write about it, I put like for this year, I've got the boxing gloves on. This is round 19, and I'm still going because it's my 19th year.
Right.
But I would tell them, to fight as much as they feel that they can.
And
do.
what can you do to fight? Because it seems like, how do I fight something I can't see? I'm shadow boxing. I'm boxing with a shadow here.
You have to be your own advocate, pretty much. I mean, to put it bluntly, if you have to be a bitch, be a bitch. But
Right.
you have to be out there. You have to be the one that says, I'm not ready to give up. When I'm ready, I'll let you know. But right now, I want to keep fighting.
Make noise, do research. How about reaching out to other people? That's what we're going to suggest here as we wrap this up here. You are a member of the Survivals Council of this organization that is so wonderful in doing this. We're going to plug it again in a moment. The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. We had the founder on last week. She talked about her journey and losing her mom, I think it was, to
Yes.
pancreatic cancer,
Yes.
and what motivated her to try and bring people together, because there wasn't enough information, there wasn't enough dialogue. The doctors shrugged and went, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? I want you to tell me some answers and give me some options. Even if they're not good, I want to know, because I'm not ready to quit. I'm ready to keep fighting. So the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network was formed. I'm assuming there are other organizations similar to it, other groups around. How do they find these? And what do you do when you get there? We'll talk more about this in future episodes. So what do these groups bring you? What do they bring you?
Well, for the first group, because it was the only group I found, like I said, I found that actually through Pam, who was on last week, is the
And you found that
PanCan.
through the Johns Hopkins Medical University website or
Yeah,
something?
I found her on a chat board through John Hopkins, and then she was in the midst of developing PanCan,
Right.
and then sort of lost track for some reason, and then after my diagnosis, reconnected again. And they have a wonderful service. It's called Patient Central, and you call them, and you get the same. What I liked is you get the same associate every time, so you don't have to explain your story every
All
time.
over again. Yeah, right.
And the information they send you is very complete, and it's free. There's no cost to you. There's
Free is
booklets.
good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, because it gives you questions, what to ask to the doctor. You can also find some of these things also on their website, which is pancan.org, and then just click on where it says facing pancreatic cancer, and it's just got a wealth of information for you.
And you can call them too. There's a phone number, 877, so it's toll free, 877 and the number 2, PANCAN, PANCAN. We'll give that out in a moment again here. But all right, well, you did it. You made it. Final thoughts, final words? Can I ask you a blunt question? Why you?
Sure.
Why you?
Why not?
I love that.
I mean, really, I mean, it's just, that was one thing I never really asked is, I think maybe for my family, but for myself, it wasn't a matter of why me, it was why not me. And I have to do whatever I can. And I would just suggest to anybody, whatever news you get, continue to fight. If that's what you want to do, continue to fight, research it, but be careful where you go. Don't just Google pancreatic cancer. Go to like pancan.org, which is a reputable site, and get the information.
Get some real facts, real
Right.
resources, real people to talk to. I know why it was you, if you don't, because you turned it into a crusade to share that information with others and to build a network and to build shows like this. That's why you.
Well, I hope so, and I hope because survivors, we go through a survivor guilt as well.
Yeah, right. And we'll talk about that in future shows here. Yeah.
And I asked somebody something, and she said, well, look at it this way. God only takes those that are perfect, and you're not perfect yet. So I'm very fine staying unperfect for a very long time.
Yeah, that's right. I'll take that as a badge of honor. Well, thank you, Roberta Luna. We're going to have you back in future shows, but it was your courage, your willingness to share and talk about this, and your unwillingness to give up and roll over and just say, like so many do, that's it. It's not it. It's never over till it's over, as somebody famously said.
Right.
So, again, we welcome this. This is a show not just to share stories, but to talk with people. So we hope that as you come back at the Facebook group in particular, you'll talk with us and ask questions, because that's really what this is too. It isn't just story after story. That's part of it, to educate, to inspire, to motivate, to give hope to those who suddenly feel hopeless. It is also a way to connect people and have conversations. Hey, I tried this. Hey, did you hear about this? What about this? Can I do this? And we'll hopefully find some researchers and give some news and updates and other things, all to give people some sort of living hope of those living with this disease. Thank you, Roberta Luna, for putting this together and for coming and sharing this with us.
Thank you
here.
for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I hope we can really do something good with this. So thank you.
I know we will. Well, there you have it, folks. The reason that you should tune in each and every week to Living Hope, to hear not just their journey, but your journey with pancreatic cancer. If you're struggling with this and you need help, you need answers, there is help out there. Not just through the real life stories of those really affected this, but there are resources as well that we're going to steer you to. And we'll start with today, that one we mentioned. There's patient services at 877-2, the number 2, PANCAN, just like it sounds, PANCAN. 877 and the number 2, PANCAN, to learn more from the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network.